Every organization depends on its leaders. When leaders are connected to a higher purpose, they guide wisely, but when they lose that connection, trouble follows. This is true in families, businesses, and faith communities. Spiritual disconnection means forgetting the true source of wisdom and compassion. The heart of the group begins to drift. People notice the change, even if they can't name it. Eventually, the whole organization can lose its sense of mission. Over 100 years ago, Ellen G. White warned leaders about the dangers of pride and spiritual disconnection. Her lessons still matter. To thrive, we must stay humble, spiritually open, and willing to change. Ellen G. White was a guiding light for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. She lived during the late 1800s and early 1900s, a time of great change and challenge. Many people believed she had a special gift for understanding God's will. She wrote thousands of letters, books, and articles, all focused on helping people grow spiritually. Ellen did not just speak to one group or one generation. Instead, her messages were for all people who want to live a life guided by faith. She traveled widely, meeting with leaders and ordinary church members. Her presence brought hope, but also a strong call for honesty and humility. What set Ellen G. White apart was her focus on true spiritual connection. She taught that it was not enough to follow rules or traditions. Real leadership meant listening to God's voice, even when it was challenging. She reminded leaders that pride and stubbornness could block the flow of spiritual power. Her work was not always easy. Many leaders resisted her advice. Still, she continued to urge everyone, especially those in high positions, to seek God's guidance first. Her courage and love made her a lasting example of what it means to be a servant leader. The General Conference Association was the center of decision-making for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. This group of leaders was supposed to seek God's will in everything they did, but over time problems crept in. Leaders started to trust their own opinions more than God's direction. Meetings became tense. Some leaders held tightly to their ideas and refused to listen to others. They made choices that served their own interests instead of the mission of the church. Ellen G. White saw these changes and was deeply troubled by them. She noticed that the spiritual life of the community was fading. For example, instead of praying together and seeking unity, leaders argued about who was right. They took control of decisions without considering the needs of the members. Ellen compared this to placing the work in a new mold, meaning the original spirit and purpose were being lost. This was not just a problem for a few people at the top. When leaders lose their spiritual connection, the whole church suffers. People begin to feel discouraged. The community loses trust in its leaders. The sense of shared purpose and hope starts to disappear. Ellen G. White spoke out boldly about problems in the church. She warned leaders of the dangers of pride and control. She wrote, "Men have taken unfair advantage of those under their jurisdiction. Leaders would rule or ruin," she said, risking the work they were meant to protect. Ellen pleaded with the General Conference to change. "The Lord has not placed any kingly power in our ranks," she wrote. True leadership meant service, not control. But many ignored her warnings, and the problems continued. Pride and stubbornness closed the door to God's blessings. The city of Battle Creek, Michigan, became the heart of the Adventist movement. Important meetings were held there, and church leaders gathered to make decisions. But as the years went by, the spirit in Battle Creek began to change. Ellen G. White described how leaders there became more interested in power than in prayer. At one key meeting, Ellen stood before the group and shared a vision she had received from God. She warned that the work receives a new mold when leaders follow their own ideas instead of God's plan. She urged them to humble themselves and seek forgiveness. Sadly, many in the room dismissed her words. Ellen saw that pride was the real enemy. Some leaders felt insulted by her warnings. Instead of changing, they became defensive. They said, "We have always done it this way," and refused to try something new. The sense of spiritual unity was lost, replaced by arguments and distrust. The result was not just a few hurt feelings, the whole movement began to suffer. Battle Creek, which once shined as a center of hope, became a place where people struggled to find God's presence. Ellen's warnings went unheeded, and the work lost its fire. When leaders ignore God's voice, darkness follows. Ellen G. White explained that when men in positions of trust close their eyes to light, darkness comes upon the people. This is a simple truth. Without spiritual direction, even the best plans fall apart. The problems at the General Conference Association grew worse. People lost trust in their leaders. Members began to ask hard questions. Some left the church, feeling that their leaders cared more about power than about people. The sense of family and mission faded away. Ellen warned again and again that pride and resistance to reform would bring sadness and confusion. She wrote, "The result of this course is spiritual blindness, men walking in darkness, not knowing at what they stumble." Every time leaders ignored her, the problems deepened. But God's voice does not stop calling. Even in the darkest times, there is always a chance to choose a better way. Ellen's warnings were not meant to discourage, but to call people back to faith. She believed that true revival was always possible if leaders and members turned their hearts back to God. The story of Ellen G. White and the General Conference Association is more than history. It holds powerful lessons for today. First, leaders must stay connected to their spiritual foundation. Pride and self-reliance lead only to confusion and decline. Humility and prayer keep us open to God's direction. Second, communities must support leaders who are willing to listen, learn, and change. Honest feedback and loving correction are gifts, not threats. When everyone's voice is valued, the group grows stronger. Spiritual revival comes from hearts that are open and humble. Third, it is never too late to seek renewal. Ellen G. White believed in the power of confession, forgiveness, and starting fresh. She wrote, "If we humble ourselves before God and be kind and courteous and tender-hearted and pitiful, there will be 100 conversions to the truth where now there is only one." This is a call to hope. As we look to the future, let us learn from the past. Let us choose humility over pride and faith over fear. Let us remember that true leadership serves, listens, and loves. Only then can our organizations and communities become places of light, healing, and trust.